Unlocking the divine mystery, why your motivation may vanish after a miraculous awakening in the quaint village of Willowdale. Nestled amidst rolling green hills, miracles danced in the air like shimmering fireflies. The night of Clara's awakening, the chapel pulsed with an otherworldly light. As the congregation's voices rose in harmony, the very walls seemed to hum with divine energy. Clara felt it pulse through her veins, an electric promise echoing the words of St. Jude, the patron of lost causes. When the prophetic voice declared, "Your deliverance is near," it resonated deep within her soul. Tears flowed freely as hope ignited a fire in the dark winter of her doubts. Weeks passed, and the miraculous fervor faded like morning dew under the sun's strong gaze. Clara attempted to cling to that celestial moment, but life's weight pressed down hard. Bills piled high on the kitchen table, toys lay strewn across the living room, and the laughter of her children felt like an echo of what once was a distant memory tainted by skepticism fostered by her neighbors. They favored science over spirit, and Clara found herself wrestling with the flurry of their whispered doubts. Did I truly hear God's voice? Or was it merely my longing heart deceiving me? The profound connection she once felt now lingered like a shadow in the corners of her heart. Then came the storm. Her youngest, little Emma, fell ill, the fever insatiable, the despair palpable. Clara felt darkness creep in, wrapping around her home like an unwanted shroud. She found herself cradling Emma, the child's fragile frame trembling against her. "Lord, I need you," Clara whispered through quivering lips, desperate yet unwavering. In the face of her alarm, she turned to her faith community, a vibrant tapestry of love and hope. They gathered, hearts woven together in fervent prayer, transforming an ordinary Monday evening into a powerful spiritual bombardment. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Clara stood surrounded by her community, the palpable energy filled the room. They prayed, voices mingling like the sweet notes of a hymn. Yet beneath her hope, a storm of doubt bubbled. What if our prayers fall flat? What if I lose her? The urgent questions crowded her mind, amplifying the weight on her spirit. But just as the shared devotion surged like a river, Clara felt the divine presence in their midst. The atmosphere thickened, charged with expectancy, each prayer thickening the walls around doubt. Then, in that moment of surrender and yearning, a glimmer of heavenly light pierced the night. Clara's heart raced, hope twinkled just beyond the veil of uncertainty. But the stakes had never been higher. Would her family's healing come? Would God's love break through the seeming despair? As the community's cries ascended towards heaven, the weight shifted. Clara stood at the edge of divine possibility, torn between urgency and faith. Her heart echoed the ever-pressing question, when, or if, the miraculous would unfold? The night bore an intensity that felt alive, as though the universe waited for a sign. Clara's heart thrummed with every fervent prayer that ascended to heaven, mingling with the shared cries of her friends and neighbors. She closed her eyes, lifting small Emma closer, as if to shield her from the world's uncertainties. The warmth of the community surrounded them like a blanket, but the fear, oh, how it clawed at her insides. As prayers wove through the air, Clara felt an encouragement unfurl in her spirit. She remembered the words, "Your deliverance is near." But in the pit of her stomach, doubt stirred. Was it possible? Was anything truly going to change? She wrestled within, wanting to believe and yet, caught in the corners of reality, the chapel, once again, felt like a sacred vessel, filled with the heartbeat of hope. People bent over, hands placed upon each other's shoulders, eyes squeezed shut tight as they entrusted their faith to a higher power. Clara opened her eyes briefly to glance at them, each face a mixture of vulnerability and fierce determination. She could see the weariness in some, the glimmers of joy in others. This was more than just a gathering. It was an outpouring of love, a tangible demonstration of shared belief. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A breath of cool night air swirled in, carrying with it a hint of the rain that had long been promised. It danced between them, stirring the collective prayer into a fervor, adding texture to the moment. Clara felt a soft whisper inside her heart, much like a child's gentle voice amidst a thunderstorm, and she shivered at the sensation. "Lord, if it is your will," she murmured, tears spilling anew as her heart cracked open. Without warning, a shudder ran through her, a shift, a tug at the very essence of her doubts. She turned back to Emma, whose small face was bathed in the dim, soft light. The fever had raged fiercely. Clara brushed her hair away, a prayer resting on her lips. Would this little one breathe freely again? Would laughter fill their home once more? In that moment, she surrendered control, trust creeping in like dawn breaking the darkness. Then, a ripple of energy surged through the congregation, and Clara felt it, a collective sigh, a response from heaven itself. The sensation poured from the walls, rising to fill the air. A wave of warmth enveloped her, a sense of belonging that she hadn't realized she so desperately needed. It poured life into her weary heart, prompting new light to ease the dark. "Emma," she whispered, her voice a cocktail of hope and warmth, "God is here with us." Across the room, Clara noticed the Reverend, leading them deeper into prayer, his voice rising above the low murmurs. His presence was calm yet fervent, grounding them as they stood on the precipice of something monumental. She felt as if the very air crackled with divine expectancy. Again, Clara turned to Emma, seeking that flicker of light within her daughter's stillness. "Please, Lord," she breathed, clenching her hands together as the fervor grew. Then, in the hush that followed a chorus of petitions, a small sound broke through the softest of giggles, coming from Emma. Clara's heart soared, suspended between disbelief and ecstatic joy. The sick child turned her head slightly, a hint of awareness playing across her features. Was it a sign? Would this be the start of a miraculous unfolding? But as she pondered that question, the storm clouds gathered in her soul. A whisper echoed through her spirit yet again. Clara felt a wave of urgency rise within her, a core truth beckoning her deeper. "Will you trust me?" It seemed to ask, lingering just at the edge of her consciousness, and at that moment, with her faith stretched, Clara realized she was at a crossroads, prepared to step boldly into the realm of the unknown. What would it take to unlock the blessings waiting just beyond her understanding? Clara stood at the crossroads of faith and uncertainty, feeling the reverberation of that soft giggle echoing in her heart. The air thickened with a presence that felt both otherworldly and comforting, wrapping around her like an embrace from heaven. She gazed into Emma's wide eyes, now shimmering with a life that had seemed almost lost. "Emma, do you feel that?" Clara whispered, leaning closer, her breath catching as hope ignited within her. Outside, the wind began to weave through the trees, rustling leaves as if nature itself was stirring in response to the prayers. The chapel felt charged and connected, much like a vessel filled to the brim with sacred water, ready to overflow with blessings. The Reverend's voice radiated authority, rising to encapsulate the congregation with words that stirred the depths of their souls. "Brothers and sisters, as we stand on this holy ground, let us open our hearts. There is strength in our togetherness. The whispers of God are within our reach." His arms stretched wide, inviting the community to enter into a deeper relationship with the divine. Clara nodded, each word resonating within her, fueling the fire of her belief. The fervent declarations fanned the flames of her spirit, growing more intense with each sentence. She cast her eyes around the room, searching the expressions of her neighbors. Some were kneeling, others had lifted their hands. All were lost in the shared fervency. But amidst this vibrant atmosphere, doubt nudged at her. What if this moment faded away? What if Emma's recovery was merely a fleeting flicker? The fear threatened to seep in again, dragging her back into shadows that haunted her thoughts. Yet, Clara remembered the warmth that had enveloped her moments before, the feeling of being part of something far greater than herself. It was an unspoken promise of inherent love and grace, intertwining the lives of everyone present. She took a deep breath, allowing the tension to melt away, focusing on the small miracle she had witnessed. "Lord, I trust you," she murmured, each word flowing like a gentle stream. Clara closed her eyes, envisioning it a living picture of healing and laughter, the joyful echoes of a family mended, and then the unexpected happened. With a sudden spark, the heavy chapel doors swung open once more. A figure stood, framed in the moonlight, casting a silhouette that flickered with divine intrigue. It was old Mr. Thompson, the elder of the congregation, whose wisdom and unwavering faith had seen them through countless trials. "God's grace is upon us," he declared, his voice reaching deep into the hearts of those gathered. "Even in our darkest hours, he is ever present." Clara moved instinctively toward him, his words igniting a flame within her spirit. She felt the room swell with collective energy, an undercurrent of divine anticipation coursing through their souls. For an instant, the boundaries of their earthly worries faded away, leaving only the raw essence of belief. "Let us pray together for healing." Mr. Thompson summoned them, drawing hands and hearts into unison, a circle of faith poised against the storm. Clara clasped Emma tightly to her chest, close to the thrum of this gathering prayer, a heartbeat symphony of intercession. As they prayed, something extraordinary enveloped the chapel, a bright light that shimmered like the dawn breaking finally over the dark horizon. Clara felt it lift her burdens, illuminating the whispered doubts and fears that had tried to chain her spirit. "Emma, sweetheart, can you feel it?" Clara's voice quivered, not from doubt but from the rush of her faith awakened, restored. But amidst the glow, a shadow of uncertainty tugged at her heart. What if faith alone wasn't all they needed? As she looked into Emma's hopeful eyes, they stared back as if asking the same profound question, "What comes next for us?" And as Clara's heart raced, she realized that the true journey was just beginning, a road paved with trust, exploration, and perhaps unexpected challenges. What awaited them just beyond that radiant moment? Would they truly grasp the miracles standing on the threshold of their faith? With her hand still gripping Emma, Clara took a deep breath, ready to step forward into the unfolding mystery. What would it take to dive deeper into this divine connection? What unfolding plans did God have for them? Clara opened her eyes, letting the warmth of hope fill her once more. The gentle glow of the reverent moment still lingered, yet the air now held an inviting charge. It was as if the very fabric of their gathering had morphed into something more like thin veils of reality were lifted, revealing what lay beyond the temporal. "Emma," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face, "what if this is just the beginning?" Emma's eyes sparkled, an innocent reflection of faith that radiated through the dim chapel. "I think it is, Mommy. I feel different." Clara's heart raced at her child's words. Could it be that Emma sensed the shift? She imagined their lives filled with the echoes of laughter, love, and unbreakable bonds, a reality transformed by a single moment of collective faith. Around them, the congregation, energized by the Reverend's call, began to murmur promises of change. "We are not alone," someone declared, the sound rippling through the circle like a holy wave. "God walks with us." The energy intensified, alive with renewed spirits yearning for healing, not just for themselves, but for each other. Clara felt her leaden worries lifting with each united breath. She looked around the room. People held hands, eyes closed in fervent prayer, accumulating strength together. The very walls of the chapel seemed to resonate with their cries. As Mr. Thompson continued to pray, Clara reflected on the community, a rich tapestry woven from individual stories. Each life, marked with trials, held a thread of hope, interlaced with faith. Could they have been summoned to this particular moment for a divine purpose? Then, Clara recalled her doubt, the tendrils of fear coaxing her back to isolation. "Will I carry this feeling when I leave?" She pondered, the uncertainty lurking in a quiet corner of her mind. She had tasted joy, yet beneath it all lay an uncharted territory. What if whose grace they felt faded like a mirage, leaving behind only an empty ache? In that moment, something shifted. A powerful whisper broke through her uncertainty. "Clara, remember the love poured into you. It's always there, fueling your spirit. Share it. Inspired, she squeezed Emma's hand tighter. With each heartbeat, she resolved not to let fear rob her of the promise found in community and faith. "Let us make a pact," Clara said to her small daughter, her voice steadying. "No matter what happens, we will keep this light alive." Emma nodded, her innocent agreement a solemn vow. The little girl lifted her chin, searching for a way to further anchor their bond to the unfolding miracle surrounding them. An unexpected warmth surged within the chapel, weaving through their spirits and igniting inspiration. The moments of doubt that had loomed merely a breath away faded like shadows in the light. It was a reminder that faith required not just belief, but action, a living testament to the reverence they held. In a soft haze, Clara's eyes settled on Mr. Thompson, who was now invoking the congregation to share their stories. One by one, families rose to share the love they had felt, the struggles they had overcome, and the hopes that now glimmered in their hearts. The sharing was like stepping stones, each voice carving a path of witness to the miraculous presence that had enveloped them all. As Clara listened, the conversations began to shift from the past to the promises of the future. Each testimony became a prayer of its own, striking deep into the foundation of their souls. But even in this crescendo, a spark of concern briefly ignited. What if their vulnerability opened the door to despair? Clara's heart ached with this thought, but she cherished the newfound connection they were forming. It was time to embrace not just the light but also the shadows that colored their journey. Each prayer, every shared struggle, was part of a divine tapestry. Let it unfold, she thought, allowing the spirit within her to rise with anticipation. As the congregation held hands in unity, Clara felt the call to courage echo loud and clear. Stepping forward in faith was not just necessary, it was the only way to unveil the mysteries of divine purpose at work. But then another flicker of doubt danced through her mind. What if the path takes us somewhere we least expect? Clara shared a glance with Emma, whose eyes were filled with bright wonder. They were both aware that while they hoped for healing and joy, the road ahead might hold more than a single prayer could contain. With hearts racing, they leaned into the mystery that awaited them just beyond the threshold. Will we find the courage to embrace whatever comes next? Clara whispered to the air, surrendering once more to the flow of the divine course they were set on. Their next steps lingered in front of them, just out of reach, like a radiant dawn awaiting its moment to break. What unforeseen challenges were ahead, veiled in God's beautiful mystery? The air around them thickened with anticipation as voices blossomed into a symphony of shared hopes and dreams. Clara felt the warmth of connection permeate her spirit, electrifying each heartbeat. She watched families tell their stories, hands clasped tightly, eyes glimmering with raw honesty. Each tale added a layer to the extraordinary atmosphere, crafting an invisible thread that bound them in love and faith. Such bravery, Clara whispered to Emma, unable to mask the awe swelling within her. She felt inspired by the openness, realizing that vulnerability was a gateway, not a weakness. It invited the light in. As Mr. Thompson concluded, he looked out at the congregation, and in that moment, his eyes sparkled with purpose. Let us not only share our stories, let us carry forth our resolve. Everything we've expressed today is a seed, and seeds need nurturing to blossom. While the echoes of his words settled over them, Clara felt an urge to act on this vision. A flicker arose within her. Perhaps she could be a vessel for sharing stories that transformed. What if she encouraged others to express their joys, their fears, their divine awakenings? Her chest surged with about 1,000,000 emotions, all jumbled yet hopeful. Emma tugged gently at her sleeve, pulling Clara from her thoughts. "Mommy, I want to share too." The child's voice was small but unwavering, reflecting a spirit that had been ignited. Clara knelt to meet her gaze fully. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, her eyes bright and clear. "I want to tell them how I feel God in my heart." Clara's heart fluttered. She had always known Emma possessed a unique connection to the divine, a bond that transcended understanding. Would this innocent little girl, through her purity, speak of faith more profoundly than anyone else could? With a small smile, Clara helped her stand, pushing back the nervousness that crept into her own heart. As Emma was lifted before the audience, Clara felt a strange sensation, part fear, part exhilaration. She held her breath, entrusting Emma's spirit to guide her, trusting in God's plan. "Hello," Emma greeted, her voice ringing sweetly despite the nervous stir in the room. "I'm Emma." A hush fell over the crowd. "Sometimes I can feel God in the flowers and in the sky. I feel him when I laugh with my friends, and sometimes when I'm sad, I just know he's there." The simplicity of her words washed over the room, a testament to the pure faith that children hold. Clara's eyes welled with tears, every drop a prayer of gratitude. "Oh, my precious girl," she thought, "you are so much more than you realize." As Emma continued, her speech blossomed into a testament of love and connection. She spoke of taking care of others, of kindness being a way to show God's love. Her youthful understanding blossomed beautiful truths, evident in the smiles around her. Clara felt the collective heartbeat, a pulse of combined faith rising. Yet, even amidst the joy, Clara felt the hints of that earlier doubt prickling at her spirit. What about the times when faith seems so far away? What if the energy in that chapel didn't last? The mysteries of faith sometimes felt like quicksand. The harder one tried to grasp it, the more it slipped away. As Emma finished her words, a gentle applause erupted, filling the chapel with warmth. Clara embraced her daughter tightly, feeling the joy ripple through her too. This was a moment of beginning, not an end. But then, questions swirled in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. How do we nourish the seeds of faith once we leave this sacred space? What will we do when the world pulls us back to doubt? Every corner of the chapel hummed with life, yet Clara felt the stirrings of something deeper brewing within her, challenging her to face the reality that awaited. Stepping back into the world after such a sacred encounter was a daunting thought. "Emma," Clara whispered, squeezing her daughter's hand, "let us remember this feeling and hold it close. But can we promise to continually nurture it, even when challenges come?" As they locked eyes, clarity washed over them both. While the future was uncertain, they understood the path wouldn't require perfection, just their commitment to keep the faith alive. A new wave of resolve washed over Clara. Something beyond her understanding bubbled up inside. Will we find the strength to face the world as God intended us to? She pondered, as the congregation surged forth with more stories eager to be shared, unearthing the potential that lay dormant within them all. And with that thought hovering, Clara felt an undeniable pull, a tug at her very soul, as if God was inviting her into the next beautiful revelation. She couldn't help but wonder, what divine mystery awaited them beyond this sacred moment? As the applause faded, a hum of excitement lingered in the air, mingling with the scent of incense that danced along the walls of the chapel. Clara felt a stirring within her, a mixture of hope and apprehension. Would the warmth of this moment spill into the days ahead, or would it slip through their fingers like fragile petals in the wind? Emma clutched her mother's hand, her gaze flitting from one smiling face to another. Each person was a vessel for something greater, a collective yearning for hope, healing, and connection. Clara marveled at the beauty of it all but couldn't shake that lingering doubt. Would they really stand together against the storms that awaited them outside these sacred walls? "Mommy, can we go outside? I want to feel the flowers." Emma's voice broke through Clara's swirling thoughts. It was a reminder of the simplicity of life's joys. Clara nodded, knowing that nature often grounded them, reminding them of God's presence in the everyday wonders. Stepping outside, they were greeted by a brilliant sky, the blue so clear it seemed like a canvas painted by divine hands. The sun bathed them in warmth, and Clara inhaled deeply. Surrounded by lush green trees and blooming flowers, she invited that tranquility into her heart. "Look, Mommy," Emma exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of daisies dancing in the light breeze. "They look so happy." Clara knelt beside her, studying the flowers, and felt a wave of peace wash over her. "They are happy," she agreed, gently touching the soft petals. "Just like our hearts can be too." Something shifted within Clara at that moment. The meticulous worry about keeping the faith alive began to fade. Maybe it wasn't solely about holding on to a feeling, but discovering God within every gesture, every smile, and every shared story. Suddenly, a group of children from the congregation burst into the garden, their laughter ringing like music. They played near the flowers, weaving between the vibrant colors, their innocence churning the air into a jubilant melody. Clara admired how they effortlessly embodied the very essence of faith Emma had shared. "See that?" Clara said to her daughter, inspired. "They're living their stories right now. God's love thrives in their joy." Emma watched intently, eyes sparkling with understanding. "Mommy, can we play too? Can we share more stories?" "Yes, my sweet girl," Clara replied, and it felt like a part of her was waking up. "Let us play, let us share." The two joined the children, and as they laughed and ran, Clara felt the tension unwind in her heart. She realized that faith was about vibration and energy that needed to be expressed through love and joy, not just contained within thoughts of doubt and fear. Clara and Emma began sharing their own stories amidst the giggles, recalling moments where they felt God's presence most profoundly. "Like when I held your hand during surgery, Mommy. I felt him with us," Emma chimed in, sunlight seeming to crown her with glory. "Exactly," Clara responded, beaming. "Every tear, every smile, they are threads woven into the fabric of our faith." Yet, just as the joy peaked, Clara felt a familiar shadow begin to creep back. What would happen when they returned to their daily life? To work, to responsibilities, to the certainty of doubt? Would this moment fade into the backdrop of routine? As they continued to play, Clara's heart wrestled with these thoughts. The memories of doubt whispered promises of what would be, yet here, surrounded by laughter and blossoms, there was a reminder that hope thrived through such shared experiences. In a moment of stillness, Clara caught herself gazing at the sky, searching for answers. "Lord," she whispered, "help me understand how to carry this light beyond today." Suddenly, Clara felt a shift, an overwhelming sense of clarity enveloped her. It was as if a veil had been lifted, showing her that faith is not a fleeting moment, but a constant dance of receiving and giving. Would they have the courage to continue sharing, to cultivate that connection even when the world felt heavy? The sound of laughter swelled around her, wrapping her in warmth. The children, now spinning like joyous dervishes, reminded her that this dance was perpetual. It held within it a promise of renewal. "Tomorrow is another chance," Clara murmured, an exhale of hope lifting from her lips. But as she looked into Emma's innocent eyes, the question hung in the air: what awaited them when life returned to its demands? Would they find ways to carry this joy into their reality, or would it drift away like petals caught in a storm? With her heart racing, Clara felt certain that the divine mystery was only just beginning. The warmth of the sun seeped deeper into Clara's soul as she savored the laughter around her. It was intoxicating, this joy thrumming through the garden like a gentle breeze. Yet, beneath that elation simmered the same worry that had clung to her for weeks. What happens when the sun sets on this moment? Emma turned to Clara, her bright eyes filled with wonder. "Mommy, can we make flower crowns? Like the princesses?" Clara smiled, the idea sparking an even brighter flame in her heart. "Of course! Let us gather some flowers." As they knelt, hands sifting through soft petals and leafy greens, Clara felt kinship with her surroundings. Each bloom, each swaying blade of grass seemed to echo a promise of hope, a reminder of perseverance. She even began to hum softly, resonating with the beauty of creation, a song of gratitude. "See those bees, Mommy?" Emma said, eyes wide as they flitted from flower to flower. "They're so busy working. Do you think they sing like you?" Clara chuckled, tying a delicate bouquet of daisies together. "Maybe they do. They're part of God's choir, just like us." As Emma carefully wove her crown, Clara shared tales from her childhood. Stories of treasures hidden in unexpected places filled the air, each word a thread weaving them closer. The crown of flowers took shape, reflecting their love and laughter, and Clara felt a pull to deepen the conversation. "Darling," she began, "do you ever feel scared? Like, what if our joy doesn't last?" Emma looked up, resonating with honesty only a child could have. "Sometimes. But I also know it comes back. Like the sun after the rain." Clara's heart sang at that response. Each moment of doubt illuminated by Emma's clarity clung to her, stirring the yearning within. They talked of faith being like that bright sun, a light that might flicker but never extinguishes completely. But an ache stirred within Clara when she saw the others still playing, weaving their own stories in the garden. Would they all drift back into their own storms once exposed to reality? Her thoughts darted like swallows, flitting around her spirit, unsure of themselves. "Mommy, can we invite some friends to play with us?" Emma's innocent suggestion broke through the haze. "I want everyone to be happy together." Clara's heart jumped at the thought. The joy of sharing did promise renewal. What if they too could gather in the gardens of each other's lives? What if they could help carry those lighted moments beyond the chapel and into their daily routines? "Yes, let us invite them," Clara exclaimed, suddenly excited at the vision of a larger gathering where everyone shared their stories in the warm sunshine of faith. But before she could run to gather the others, a shadow crept over the garden again. The nagging doubt resurfaced. What if they arrived only to find themselves cold against the harsh winds of life, chasing joy that felt like a ghost? At that moment, Clara noticed the children's laughter splintering the air, like shards of light breaking through thick clouds. They danced around them, twirling and singing, blissfully unaware of her worries. "Mommy, Mommy," Emma's voice pierced through. "I can feel the flowers smiling. Can you?" Tears pricked at Clara's eyes as she nodded slowly. "Yes, sweet girl, I can. They remind us to keep blooming, even when it feels hard." And as the children rejoiced, she realized that the answer lay not in a perpetual high but in the shared rhythms of life. Each flower's bloom mirrored their own struggles and triumphs, rooting them together in faith, but the looming question still hovered heavy in Clara's heart. How could they carry this momentum through the sobering realities of their lives? Facing the children dancing and the sun warming her skin, a thought emerged. Could this moment, this feeling, become their anchor? Clara inhaled deeply, summoning courage. Perhaps the divine mystery was not in knowing every answer, but in trusting that there would be a way forward, together. Going back inside, she grasped Emma's hand tight. "Let us gather everyone and share our stories." As they turned towards the chapel, the air hinted at more an uncharted territory of faith. Each step felt like entering a promise, igniting curiosity about what awaited them. What if, just what if, that shared light could blossom into something even more profound? Would their joy find fertile ground in unity? In that moment, Clara felt the weight of possibilities stirring like the breeze around them, eager to unfold into a new adventure. As Clara and Emma walked hand in hand, the path to the chapel shimmered in the sun, each stone seemingly infused with purpose. The laughter of the children faded into a gentle hum, and the garden whispered secrets of joy and sorrow. Clara's heart danced between anticipation and trepidation as she wondered how to share such a delicate light with others. Inside, the chapel felt alive with hope. Sunbeams streamed through the stained glass, casting vibrant patterns that flickered like the heartbeat of faith. Clara squeezed Emma's hand tighter, feeling the rising tide of uncertainty. Would the story shared here be enough? Would they inspire hearts that might be burdened by doubt? Gathering their friends brought a bubbling joy that rattled with life. Children swirled around, gathering in clusters, arms thrown wide as they created a tapestry of laughter and connection. Clara watched Emma, her spirit unfettered, as she broke into another round of laughter, inviting all to join in. Clara couldn't help but smile. That innocence spoke volumes to the work of grace in their lives. Soon, Clara found herself standing on the small platform at the front of the chapel, her heart racing. The chatter subsided, and all eyes turned toward her, glistening with expectation. They were ready to share not just stories, but pieces of their very souls. "Thank you for being here, everyone," Clara began, her voice steady but laced with warmth. "Today, we gather not just to enjoy the sun and laughter, but to weave our stories together much like these flowers we collected earlier." A murmur of agreement filled the room, and Clara's courage surged. "You know, life is like a garden. Sometimes it blooms beautifully, and other times, it can feel desolate. Yet, together, we have the power to plant seeds of faith and share the light through even the darkest days. As she spoke, Clara felt a ripple of energy flow through her, igniting hearts and planting hope in the souls of her friends. She could see the flickers of recognition as her words touched their personal struggles, each face mirroring her own fears and aspirations. Emma reminded me today that joy is always dancing like the bees who work tirelessly among us, bringing life to the flowers. She paused, her gaze finding Emma, whose smile sparkled like sunlight. And just as the flowers bloom again after the rain, so too can we embrace those moments of brightness. With every sentence, Clara felt the weight of doubt lifting, replaced by a swell of unity. Little by little, friends began sharing their stories, revealing fears, triumphs, and the unyielding hope that blossomed in their lives. Each tale echoed and intertwined, knitting a stronger, more vibrant tapestry of faith than Clara had ever envisioned. The chapel filled with warmth, much like the garden outside, as there was laughter and even tears. Clara felt an indescribable peace settle over them, a sense of purpose birthing itself within the community. It was a divine orchestration of spirits coming together, each story a thread in the fabric of their shared experience. But just as she felt faith rise triumphantly, a whisper of fear crept back in a soft reminder of her earlier doubt. What would happen when the sun dipped below the horizon and reality cast its shadow again? Before she could dwell on that thought, Emma tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, can we keep coming back to share more? Like a special place for our stories?" A wave of warmth swept over Clara at her daughter's eagerness, as Emma's words hung in the air, pregnant with potential. The divine whisper seemed to wrap around them, reaffirming the idea as a beloved promise. The community would bloom again, even against the odds. "Absolutely, my dear. We can create our own little garden right here," Clara replied, excitement building. "And with every meeting, we'll nurture one another in faith. We'll help each other grow." But even as they spoke, a deeper mystery lingered in Clara's heart. What if, amidst all the shared stories and togetherness, a greater revelation awaited them? What if their united hope could spark a revival of spirit beyond their own understanding? Clara inhaled deeply, inviting the fragrant air of possibility, ready to embrace whatever divine intrigue awaited them. "Together, we will bloom even in the shadows," she declared, voice bold and true. As the children cheered, the chapel resonated like a song, a sacred chorus of joy mingling with longing. But the underlying question would not leave her heart. Could their collective faith truly transform their lives when darkness threatened to dim the light? As they began to plan their next gathering, Clara knew they were on the precipice of something extraordinary. What divine wonders might unfold through their continued faith, and how might it lead them into uncharted territory? The garden of their lives was calling. As the days turned into weeks, the little community continued to gather. Clara felt a warmth surrounding them, infused with a sense of belonging. Each meeting grew richer, the stories shared weaving together like the vines in the garden outside. Laughter and tears mingled freely like petals dancing on the wind. But with each gathering, Clara sensed something shifting in her heart. The joy was palpable, yet an undercurrent of unease began to stir. She could see the fire of passion written across the faces of her friends, but what if that flame flickered out like the setting sun? That haunting thought only grew louder as the days passed. One evening, as she walked home with Emma, the crisp air clear and vibrant, Clara turned to her daughter, who was humming a joyful tune. "Emma," she began cautiously, "do you ever wonder if we can keep this light shining? What if?" But she hesitated, reluctant to voice the doubts creeping in. Emma looked up, her eyes bright and innocent. "Mommy, it's like the sun. It wakes up every day, no matter what." Her small hand gestured wide, and Clara couldn't help but smile. There was a faith in her daughter that was unyielding and ever-present. "Yes, but sometimes clouds come," Clara whispered, feeling the weight of her words. The shadows danced in the corners of her mind, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the clouds might come for them too. That night, as Clara lay in bed, an idea began to take root. Could their gatherings become a sanctuary, a place fortified against doubt? A garden that flourished even in the storms. In the morning, stirred by inspiration, Clara gathered her friends. She proposed something noble, creating a weekly garden night, where they could not only share stories, but cultivate their spirits through prayer, meditation, and acts of kindness. Cheers erupted, echoing through the walls like a jubilant hymn. Clara felt hope swell within her, yet quietly, the fear still nibbled at her heart. Would these efforts be enough to anchor their faith when the clouds rolled in? As the first garden night approached, Clara prepared with care. She arranged a long table filled with fresh flowers and candles, while outside, the garden thrived. Little did she know that this very evening would unfurl a beautiful tapestry that would intertwine joy and struggle in ways she hadn't foreseen. Underneath the radiant light of a full moon, they gathered, laughter spilling over like the evening dew. Each friend took turns sharing a blessing, a concern, a prayer. What they did not know was that within the openness of their circles, deeper connections were being forged, unseen threads looping through their stories. When the time came for Clara to speak, she felt an unusual presence. With a gentle tremor in her voice, she shared her fears. "I worry that like flowers wilting, our joy may fade. But God has given us this moment to bloom, to nurture what we have." Instead of quiet murmurs, a wave of affirmations washed over her, souls echoing sentiments of support. Clara's heart swelled. Was this what faith looked like? As they spoke, something divine came alive in the room. Clara felt hands clasp around hers, a collective bond forming. Suddenly, the doubts that had simmered beneath the surface began to dissolve. Yet, just as the air shimmered with possibility, an unease returned. What if their joy was temporary? What if prayers didn't bear fruit? The swirling mixture of hope and uncertainty ignited a deeper yearning for answers. As the night drew to a close, Clara looked at the faces illuminated by candlelight. A question loomed in her heart: could this small garden truly withstand the storms that life would inevitably bring? Their shared laughter drifted into the night, a testament to their resilience, but a flicker of anxiety lingered like a shadow. What were they truly nurturing together, and would it sustain them when challenges lay ahead? The garden of their lives was vibrant, yet Clara knew deeper revelations awaited. What divine mysteries could emerge from their collective faith, and would they flourish through every season? Clara stood at the entrance of the chapel, her heart bursting with a mixture of trepidation and hope. Week after week, they had gathered, creating a living tapestry of faith woven with shared stories. Yet, doubt still whispered in the shadows, challenging the vibrancy they had cultivated. Would the camaraderie, the joy, could it sustain them when the storms of life threatened to draw close? But tonight, as the familiar warmth surrounded her, something felt different. The air crackled with expectancy, charged with divine purpose. Clara glanced at Emma beside her, whose innocent smile glowed with the light of 1,000 stars. "Tonight, we share even more of ourselves," Clara murmured, squeezing her daughter's hand, rekindling the hope that had flickered within her for weeks. As they entered the chapel, the sight was awe-inspiring. Filled with friends, each face illuminated by the glow of candles, hearts intertwined in a sacred bond that transcended mere words. Clara felt the flutter of anticipation rise within her as Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his voice resonating like a gentle yet powerful bell through the room. "Dear family, tonight we stand united, ready to sow seeds of connection, healing, and love." A mighty cheer erupted, and with each passing moment, Clara felt the walls of uncertainty crack. She watched as individuals stepped up, pouring out stories of struggle and triumph interwoven with emotion. Laughter erupted, tears flowed, and amidst it all, the unmistakable feeling of sacred inclusion washed over her. When her turn came, Clara could hardly contain the swell of gratitude. "In our journey together, I felt like a fragile flower lifting its head to the sun," she began, her voice trembling with truth. "But doubts often feel like shadows that threaten to dim my light. Yet, here, surrounded by each of you, I realize that faith isn't just about the shining moments. It's about the roots we lay together." As she spoke, Clara felt a warmth coursing through her veins, igniting a deeper understanding. Each face turned towards her bore the marks of individual stories of laughter and tears, and she recognized that vulnerability was the gateway to connection. The atmosphere thickened with intent as they prayed together once more. Clara closed her eyes, surrendering to the warmth of unity, calling upon the divine to stir within them all. Lord, strengthen us. Let us bloom where we are planted. With each shared prayer, a ripple spread across the room, a tide of love fanned into flame by genuine belief. Suddenly, the air buzzed around them, a divine energy lifting hearts into realms unimaginable. As the Reverend led them in prayer, Clara felt a startling shift, a palpable presence wrapping around them, akin to the embrace of the Father. Let our shared stories be the sunlight that nurtures our faith, he beseeched, his voice ringing over them with the authority of love. Then came the unexpected. Emma tugged at Clara's sleeve again, her childlike spirit unbridled. "Can I share something?" she called out, those crystalline eyes sparkling with innocence and purity. Clara's heart swelled as she nodded, amazed at her daughter's courage. As Emma stood and articulated her thoughts, she spoke of her love for the chapel, of the laughter shared, and of the flowers they had twisted into crowns. "Together, we are like flowers, blooming again and again," she declared, the sincerity in her words illuminating even the darkest doubts. Laughter erupted, and Clara marveled at the power emanating from her daughter, a potent reminder that faith could be simple, yet profound. After countless stories were earlier shared, the congregation fell into a reverent silence. In the stillness, various faces reflected back a sweet vulnerability, a tapestry of life seen through shared glances, connections that fortified their spirits deep within. Clara understood that this was their collective promise, to illuminate one another's truths and to embrace the storms along with the sunshine. As candles flickered like countless stars against the deepening night, Clara felt the power of that collective faith surge within. Together they were warriors, tempered by trials, yet united in purpose. They became a garden, a community dancing between shadows and sunlight, forging forward into the mysteries of tomorrow. In that moment, surrounded by unity, Clara realized the depth of their shared journey. They held the keys to keeping this light alive, not through perfection, but through authenticity and commitment. It was not merely their laughter that carried weight, but every tear shed, every struggle faced together. The vines of their connections would entwine in resilience, holding strong no matter what faced them outside the chapel. Clara looked around, her heart bursting with joy. This was more than a gathering, it was a revolution of faith. "Let us keep this spirit alive," she urged, her voice ringing clear, a passionate call to action. "Let us nurture our garden of faith. Let us continue sharing, continue gathering. And when the clouds come, let us remember we are never alone." With that declaration, an eruption of applause broke forth, echoing out into the night like a chorus of angels. Clara felt the wave of energy washing over them, binding them closer than ever before. And in that moment, she knew they were ready to face whatever awaited them, armed with the promise of togetherness. As they exited the chapel, like vibrant petals in the wind, Clara whispered a silent prayer, "Lord, let our stories bloom. Let our garden flourish." And as the night sky enveloped her and Emma, it felt like the start of a new journey, a wondrous unfolding of faith that would light their path ahead. Remember, dear friends, your stories matter. In our shared journeys, miracles are born. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Don't wait even one more second to support this channel. Only true servants of God understand the importance of uplifting this ministry through your actions.